Hey everyone, it's B, and you're listening to another episode of the In Your Feelings podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be going through a few gentle reminders I think everyone could use when they're healing. But before we dive into that, I did just want to thank Thought Catalog and Shop Catalog for helping to bring this podcast to life for all of you. As you may know, Thought Catalog helps me to produce these episodes and ensure that I am supported in bringing these messages to you. Shop Catalog, on the other hand, is where they sell all of their products, like my books, for example, and the books of so many other authors that have just deeply, deeply inspired me. This week is actually really exciting because my third book, A Gentle Reminder, has finally, after so long, it is finally being released. And that means that all of you finally have the opportunity to hold it, which just makes my heart burst. I've been sharing so many sneak peeks and little excerpts of the poems on Instagram, and it has been warming my heart to see that all of you are resonating so deeply with those words. I wish that I could express in words how much this book truly means to me. And at the end of the day, I just hope that it becomes the kind of collection that means a lot to you too. So if you want to read more about A Gentle Reminder, you can go to shopcatalog.com. I'll also leave the link below. And yeah, I hope you love it. Okay, so back to the podcast. Today we are, as I said, going to be talking about healing and little reminders I think everyone could use while they are healing. When you have been through a lot, or when you are dealing with a situation that has hit your heart and caused a great amount of change in your life, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of work to rebuild, to pick up those pieces of yourself, of your heart, and to put them back together again. That is very tough. It can be really disorienting. It can feel really uncomfortable. And what I have noticed within this process is that sometimes it truly doesn't feel like we are healing when we are. Sometimes you don't realize that you are healing in the dark or in the quiet of it all. Sometimes you think healing has to look a certain way, that you have to do it within a specific timeline, that you have to move on or feel okay within 3 months or 5 months, or when you achieve a very specific thing. But that isn't the case, because you can't rush or force your healing. You can't push yourself to be okay when you are not ready, when you have not come to terms with or learned how to be kinder and softer to what you have been through. When you're a deep feeler especially, it is easy to vilify yourself for continuing to be affected, for continuing to care. It can be easy to wish that you could just move on, or that things could feel less heavy within your chest. And I wanted to speak some encouragement into anyone who might be there right now. I wanted to create a list of reminders that you can have for the days where you feel a little heavier on your journey, for the days you question if things are ever going to get better, for the days you question if things are ever going to mend, if the growth will ever come. Healing happens in the quietest moments. It happens in the dark. It happens slowly, and then all at once, and then slowly again. It pushes you forward, and then there can be days where you retreat within your memory and the wound is scratched and you learn to peel back another layer of your journey. and that's hard. But I hope these reminders help you to be a little kinder to yourself in those moments, a little more gentle with yourself as you learn how to navigate them. And so, my first reminder is that healing is a process that is painfully slow. You cannot rush your healing out the door. You cannot run from what you are feeling. There is no beautiful and perfect way to face the past or the demons or the hurt. But it has to happen. You have to move through it. And it's uncomfortable. It is so deeply uncomfortable. So, on the other hand, it is also so deeply understandable that you would want to heal in a way that was fast. That you would want to simply cut the pain from the bone and move forward towards a future that is light-filled and hopeful. But healing doesn't happen overnight. And it does not happen when you decide it has to happen. It takes time. And if you really think about it, I understand that it is difficult to sit with this journey, and I understand that you want to feel better, and I understand that you most likely have so many human beings telling you it has to be done this way or that way, or that you should be over certain things within a certain amount of time. But at the end of the day, your healing is your own, and you have to do it on your own terms, on your own timeline. And often when this process is taking longer than we had hoped, when we wish we could just feel better or revilify ourselves because we should be further along on our journeys by now, just remember that it is only the deepest things that affect us to such a degree. When it comes to our hearts, when that journey of mending them is happening slowly, it is a testament to just how much we tried for something, to just how much we cared, and in a way allowed for ourselves to be vulnerable in this world with another human being to the point of walking away with pieces of them stuck to us. It takes time to shake that off. It takes time to learn how to live with the memories. It takes time to learn what it means to be alone, what it means to be your own home, what it means to sleep in the middle of the bed or make just one cup of coffee in the morning. It takes time to come to terms with that kind of loss, with that kind of hurt. And if you are healing from something else, this still holds weight. So many of you have been through things that you did not deserve. So many of you have been weathered by this world in ways that you were not prepared for. So many of you live each and every single day learning how to confront that, learning how to work through that, learning how to show up in that hurt in order to stop it from hurting you further. And to think that something that requires so much bravery and courage and strength could be fast, well, that's just not the case. So take your time. Be gentle with yourself. This stuff is hard and you are showing up to do it, and that is a beautiful and strong thing. You should be proud of yourself. And on that note, I want to also remind you that no one will ever fully be able to understand the internal battles you had to endure just to heal, just to grow, just to make it here today. You should be proud of the way you fought to save yourself. You should be proud of the way you survived. But listen, I know that there is so much pressure to be unfazed and unaffected in this generation. I know that people will tell you to just think positively, to just move on, to just distract yourself from what is going on in your heart, what is demanding to be felt. They will tell you that you care too much. They will tell you certain things weren't a big deal. It happens so often, and it can make you question yourself. But you know what is going on inside of yourself. You know your heart. You know your mind. And no one around you knows how hard you are trying, how much work you have done, how brave it is to heal even when it hurts. No one around you knows what goes through your mind when the world is quiet, and your thoughts and your pain and your memories and your past knock at your door. No one knows what it is like to be you, moving through this season as an individual. And no one knows what you have had to endure on the deepest level of that. No one knows what you have been through because they did not personally experience the break or the loss or the hurt. So this is your reminder that your feelings are valid. And this is a reminder to look back at how far you truly have come. Really think back to the moments you thought would defeat you. Think back to all of the things you genuinely did not think you would be able to heal from, or the days you truly did not think you would be able to get out of bed in the morning. You have saved yourself so many times. Day after day, hour after hour, minute by minute, and sometimes that has been messy. And sometimes you have fumbled with the weight of healing and what it requires. And sometimes you have taken the long way towards understanding or closure or clarity, but you still showed up to do it. And that takes a lot of courage. And you are strong enough to do it again and again and again. I hope that reminds you to keep going. You have been through so much, but it has never defeated you. That is your power. Okay, so my next reminder is that if you're healing right now, you have to learn how to forgive yourself. You have to learn how to give yourself the same empathy and compassion that you give to everyone around you. And so I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for staying longer than you knew you should have. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for loving someone who could not value you, who could not meet you where you were. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for the mistakes you made while you were navigating your healing, while you were just trying to deal with the weight of being human. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for accepting less than you deserved. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for what happened to you. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for what other people did. I hope you learn how to stop blaming yourself for that hurt. And I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for caring so deeply, for putting so much of your heart and your energy and your effort into friends or partners or family members who just did not deserve you. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for all of the things that keep you awake at night. for all of the things you have used to convince yourself that you are not worthy of goodness or happiness or beauty in this life. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself for not standing up for yourself, for not speaking up, for not advocating for yourself, for not defending your heart. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself. I really do. You are human. You are real. You are not perfect. And that means that you will not move through this life in a way that is faultless and beautiful and void of mistakes. But you have to give yourself compassion there. And don't get me wrong, I am the first person to understand how hard that is. We are so hard on ourselves. Because it's almost so difficult to meet ourselves with grace when we know we could have shown up for ourselves more. It's one thing to be let down by another human being, but it is a whole different emotion when you realize that within that you also let yourself down. That is another layer of healing, the self-forgiveness, having to admit that we didn't protect our hearts, having to admit to ourselves that we deserved more. It's so tough, but forgiveness is so powerful here. Self-forgiveness is quite possibly one of the largest aspects of healing because it gives you the opportunity to commit to yourself, to learn from the past, to soften the guilt, and to move forward in the lessons and in the strength and really dedicate yourself to never again letting yourself down in the same ways. That is how patterns are broken. Not in berating yourself and talking negatively to yourself. Not in shaming yourself for having been wrong, but rather in celebrating the fact that you are aware now and bringing that awareness into your future. That is how you begin to heal. And on another note, another reminder is don't vilify yourself for being affected by something you thought you had healed from. This is your reminder that healing is not linear. There are going to be days where you wake up and your bones are full of light. There are going to be days where it feels like your heart has finally settled into its final form, has finally mended the wounds. There are going to be days where you leap towards something you would have run from in the past, and those days will be so gratifying. It will feel beautiful and hopeful and full. But then there will also be days where you take 5 steps backwards, where the wound is scratched, where the hurt resurfaces, where you hear a song and your chest tightens, where you see them in public and your heart starts to ache, where the memories surprise you in the middle of your day. And I know how jarring that can be. I know how hard it can be to sit with that. I know how disorienting that is. How it can make you wonder if you are actually getting better. But the truth is, healing happens in waves. It is a process. You peel back the layers, you move forward. You find new rooms within your healing, within your heart, that you are scared to go into. And you learn how to face those new obstacles. You learn how to open the door. And this is why people often say that healing is a lifelong journey. We aren't ever actually void of the experience or the memory. But slowly we can learn how to control the way those memories affect us. Slowly, we learn how to approach the hard days. We learn how to not let them convince us that this season of learning has been for nothing. We let those emotions pass through us. How to believe in the foundation we have built within our feeling. How to remind ourselves just how far we have come while also being compassionate with ourselves and how human we are. That is healing. And those moments are bound to happen because, as I have said, healing and growth is uncomfortable. It's hard work. But you can do hard things. You can do hard things, and not because you will be unaffected and bulletproof within your growth. Not because you are immune to breaking down. Not because you will find it easy to navigate all that is healing within you. Because your journey is never going to be faultless. It is never going to be void of pain. But you can do hard things because you show up to do them, even if it is imperfectly, even when it hurts, even if you break down, even if you feel tender, no matter how weathered you feel, no matter how lost you feel, you can wake up in the morning. You can do whatever you have to do in order to tuck light between your bones. You can do whatever you have to do in order to remind yourself that goodness exists, that you are capable of finding it, that things are always going to be okay. You can do hard things. You are strong enough to live without them. You are strong enough to become the person you have always wanted to be. You are strong enough to let go, to walk away, to ask for what you need, to stand up for yourself and your heart and the life you truly want to live. You can do hard things, no matter how difficult they are. Whatever you do on this journey, please just believe in that. Keep going. Nothing has the capacity to destroy you unless you give it permission to. So keep going. You are going to look back on these moments in your future, and you're going to be so glad that you trusted in your healing. You're going to be so glad that you chose to believe there was so much more out there for you. And lastly, within that same sentiment, in a way, you owe it to yourself to heal. Because if you rush this out the door, if you convince yourself that you are okay when you are not, if you pretend like the hurt does not exist, that is when it will control you the most. You have to let these feelings pass through you and over you like rain. You have to listen to yourself, to your heart. You have to hold your hurt. You have to befriend your demons. You have to work through the trauma, and it doesn't have to be constant. You can take breaks from the weight of turning over all of that dirt within yourself, but you do have to revisit it. Slowly but surely, on your own time. Because when you show up within your healing, you are showing up for the person you are becoming. You are showing up for a future version of yourself. One of the best things I have heard recently was something that David Goggins said on Lewis Howes' podcast, The School of Greatness. He was asked what haunts him the most in life, and he started talking about how so often so many of us create this fear around healing, around doing the uncomfortable thing, because it hurts. It isn't easy. We like to avoid that. Trauma, heartbreak, it's terrifying to uncover all of that. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. But if you convince yourself that you can't do it, and if you don't allow yourself to heal those parts of yourself, you can, in a way, discount the person you are becoming. Because no matter what you have been through, no matter what you have endured, no matter how broken you think you are, you have the power within yourself to change things. But it happens when you face yourself, when you embrace your healing. And something that really stood out for me in this talk was David goes on to talk about what haunts him the most, and he goes into this story where he talks about this version of himself that never worked through his fears or his healing. And this version of himself goes to heaven, or whatever realm you believe in, and God, or whatever entity you believe in, sits him down with this chart. And on this chart is a long list of just absolutely incredible things. This chart has his name on it, and it says that he changed lives, that he set world records, that he achieved so much. And he's in this final resting place, and he's looking at this chart, and he turns to God, or whatever entity you're envisioning right now, and he says, "This isn't me though. I didn't do any of those things." And God, or whatever spiritual aspect you believe in, says, "You're right. That isn't the person who stands before me right now. But it was who you were meant to be." And so he ends this story talking about his fears of going to heaven, or whatever version of heaven may exist when the time comes, and hearing, "You're in heaven. This is what you should have been on earth. This is how much you left on the table because you didn't trust yourself enough, because you didn't heal, because you chose to believe that you were not worthy." And I couldn't believe how deeply that resonated with me. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that I don't really share a lot of what I'm reading or excerpts like that from other people that have inspired me. It's usually all written by me, but that hit me straight in the heart. And it resonated, and I couldn't believe how incredibly well it fits into this last point of the podcast. And that's what I mean when I say you owe it to yourself to heal, to make sure that you do not let your past affect the way you show up for your future, for your happiness, for the version of yourself that is crashing their heart into this world that is happy. The past is here to teach you lessons, and healing is a lifelong journey. But when we choose that journey, when we choose to face the dark, when we have the courage to go into that pain, that heartache, when we do the hard thing, that is where our healing begins, and that is also where our future begins. We actively show up for it each and every day. And that is such a beautiful thing to me, because it means that it is in our control. So I know it is tough right now, and I know it might be easier to avoid. All of this healing and all of this feeling and all of these things inside of your mind, the things that you are thinking of right now as you listen to this podcast. But once you do, that is where so much begins. You can do this. You have already come so far, and I am so proud of you. So I hope you keep going, even when it's hard. All right. Thank you all for listening to the podcast today. This one is really close to my heart, And I know I could have used these reminders when I was younger, so I wanted to write something that would just encourage you to keep going while also acknowledging how far you have come. And within all of that, reminding you that this isn't easy work and that it's okay to be overwhelmed by it, but that you can really show up and you can really do hard things, because at the end of the day, you are so incredibly brave and you are so incredibly strong. So I hope these reminders inspired you to be a little more gentle with yourselves right now on your journeys. And yeah, I hope they hit home. And last but not least, just for those who have made it this far, I have a surprise. I wanted to give all of you a 10% off code for my newest book, A Gentle Reminder. I'll leave the link for it below, as I said in the intro of this episode, but the code you can input is Feelings10, and that will take the discount off. So from my heart to yours, until next time, be gentle with yourselves and know that you are so loved.